So my question's about education policy, and I was wondering what would you do to close the racial gap in education on a national level?
Sure. And that's a big question after the debate when Senator Harris and Vice President Biden got into it. Certainly the data is pretty clear that people, especially from low income, there's a racial gap, but the gap is almost as large just based on income. And people that come from low income communities, often the parents are working 2 jobs, they don't have a secure household, kids have a hard time keeping up with their homework, there's just so many distractions. I mean, I'm not sure, there's so many different reasons. I think that the key is to make sure that every school should be a good school, and clearly those schools that have a high concentration of students on free and reduced lunch, which is a very accurate indicator of economic background, that they deserve more teachers. I think their teachers in low-income schools should be paid better. Many teachers unions, not all, but many teachers unions are resistant to that. But again, we need to keep turning the dial to make sure that someone's zip code is not an indication of how well they're going to do in school. This country is based on equal opportunity, and we're a long way from that. My son switched into, and he's been in public schools all the way through, he switched into a middle school that had been a failing middle school, had been the worst, I think it was one of the worst 5 middle schools in Colorado, a very low income neighborhood. And they turned it into an innovation school, and that allowed them to have 1/3 of the teachers, this is rough numbers, but 1/3 of the teachers came in an hour early and left an hour early, and maybe 1/4 of the teachers came in an hour later and left an hour later. So they extended the school day, and basically they had study halls, so the kids got their homework done during the day. That was the idea. And it's amazing, in the space of 3 years, that school went from being one of the very worst to being one of the very best. They also had an inspired principal. They also went to a longer school year. They went from 186 days per year in school to, I think it was 205 days. So, not huge, but almost 10%. And they had to get extra money from the school district for that. But again, our goal should be making sure that even the worst performing schools figure out what is that algorithm that will allow them to deliver the same good outcomes that the best schools deliver. And in many cases, we know the ideas, we just have to find resources, and it's not all that much, having teachers come in a little early and leave a little early, come in a little late, leave a little late, that costs almost nothing. Anyway, I certainly agree on the goal.